District Governors. I want to welcome you. Apparently I'm the boy. Thanks, Kathy. It's always good to talk to you. Welcome on behalf of District 6290. It's great to see everybody for another exciting evening, and I look forward to all the things we can learn tonight. Thanks for attending again.
Okay, we'll turn it over to Mel for introductions.
Okay, I am Melanie McCoy from the Seawing Rotary Club. I'm membership chair at 6310 with Randy, and I have the privilege of introducing Jenny tonight. And I'm just excited reading her bio. Okay, so that's how it is. But if everybody could check and make sure that they're muted, that would be great. And then we will take questions, but I heard there might be a twist on that Jenny might be asking us questions instead of the other way around, but we'll try and get those at the end. So Jenny Stotts currently serves as membership chair in District 6690. She's a member of the Paul Harris Society and the Bequest Society. She's a charter member and past president of the Rotary Club of Athens Sunrise and a past assistant governor. Her favorite Rotary activities include Ryla and Paddle for Polio Plus, which must be why you live by the river, an annual event featuring kayaks. She developed and is leading a large-scale service event called The Big Project, which benefits her hometown by bringing together more than a dozen Rotary, Kiwanis, Lions, and Civitan clubs, which she describes as her dream project. Stotts is the executive director of the Athens CASA Gal program and the regional coordinator of Southeastern Ohio CASA. So just so if anybody doesn't know, CASA stands for the Court Appointed Special Advocate, and they advocate on behalf of children who experience neglect or abuse. She's a licensed social worker, a trauma specialist, and a trained forensic interviewer. She has dedicated her career to serving foster children. This work is near to her heart as she was adopted from the Ohio child welfare system as a child and grew up in a foster home. She and her husband, also a Rotarian, continue the tradition, building their family through adoption as well. Stotts also spends time training, speaking, and consulting on child welfare, trauma, and resiliency, as well as change management and leadership development. She's presented at national and international events. Her work on trauma-informed care has been published in multiple journals. While presenting, Stotts adheres to her 24-hour rule to provide the audience with a practical skill and concept they can apply within one day. I'm excited for that. Stotts has recently recognized in her community and region as the Young Professional of the Year, Community Leader of the Year, and Ohio's 5 under 35 featured alumni. She serves as the chair of the federally mandated Child Welfare Review Panel on Permanency and was elected to the National Leadership Council and the Rural Leadership Council for CASA. She also serves on the advisory board of the Appalachian Children's Coalition. In addition to Rotary, since she has so much free time, I can tell, Stotts volunteers her time with the Make-A-Wish Foundation and the Child Conservation League. She describes herself simply as mother, wife, friend, social worker, Rotarian, and troublemaking millennial. With that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Jenny. Thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for welcoming me. I am so excited to spend the next hour with you. I'm going to try really hard not to make it boring. And one thing that'll really help me with that goal is if you all could just agree to laugh at my jokes. It's a lot less painful if you just laugh at my jokes. It makes me feel better. So can we just go ahead and enter into that kind of agreement through the Zoom that we're just going to laugh at my jokes. And I want to see you laughing at them because I can't hear you, you're muted. So if you could really audaciously laugh at my jokes, I probably will keep telling them. So first rule for tonight is that this is not one of those keynotes where I'm just going to talk to you and you're just going to sit there and hope that you're inspired and count down until we end. That's not what this is. So if that's what you signed up for, what you were expecting, no hard feelings if you step out now. But I'm actually going to make you work a little bit. And the first is I would like you in the chat box, and you need to do this in 10 seconds or less. Don't think about it too much. Don't try to impress me. Don't try to impress any of your district governors that are on the line. They're not even going to look at your answers. I mean, they will, but they'll ignore them. So I want you to get in the chat box, and in 10 words or less, just simply say, why are you a member of Rotary? It should be easy. I know no one had the chance to study for this test, but it should be easy. Why are you a member of Rotary? Why did you join? Why did you stay? Okay, great. To do good in the world. Lots of doing good in the world, serving others, inspired. Oh, someone was a youth exchange. Make a difference, friends, fun, serving the community, serving others. Okay, so I talk to Rotary clubs and Rotary districts quite a bit. And one thing I found is that we all answer the same things, right? We all are involved in Rotary, and we join and we stay in Rotary because of the good that we can do and the people that we meet along the way. That's why we do that. We're all volunteers. No one has to do Rotary, but you get to do Rotary, and it's fulfilling to you. I know that's part of my Rotary story. Is my mission in life is to leave people in places a little bit better than when I found them. And Rotary is the vehicle that helps me do that. So that's why I'm so committed to Rotary. And thank you all for sharing really quickly the story that you have. I'd also like you, if you have a piece of paper, or if you have maybe a, like on your phone or something, or on your computer, whatever, if you have like a Hardee's wrapper or a KFC wrapper around, just go ahead and write on that, that'd be fine. But I just want you to go ahead and divide it into 3 sections. And at the top of your first section, I would like for you to write the word think. And so I just proved to all of you that you can think. I asked you very quickly, why are you a member of Rotary? And you all answered it very quickly. So you've proved to me that you can think. You're ready for the rest of this talk. Now, the second thing that I would like for you to do is to stand up or sit in your chair, whatever's comfortable or able for you to do. And I would like for you to reach up as high as you can if you're able to. Just reach up as high as you can. Is everybody doing it? Can I get like a nod? You're reaching up as high as you can. You're not lying to me, like you're doing it. Okay. Now, if I said, could you reach just like a little bit higher? Like just a little bit higher, like just like another inch, another half inch. Okay, and everyone could do that? Okay, put your arms down. I don't want anyone to pass out. Put your arms down. And so what you just proved to me is that you know how to stretch. It's completely possible. I said, are you reaching as far as you can? And you all said yes, and you wouldn't lie to me because you're members of Rotary, and you were all stretching, and you proved to me that you could even stretch a little bit more. So in that second column on your paper, I'd like for you to write the word stretch. And now the next piece of work that I have for you is that in the chat box, I would like for you to name one person that you haven't talked to about Rotary before. So it could be the person's name, or it could be like my dentist, or the gardener, or the neighbor. So someone that you have not talked to about Rotary. People put dentist a lot. I don't know why. Why don't we have more dentists in Rotary? People put that answer a lot. Flower shop owner. Good. Neighbor, clergy, church.
Yeah. There's a lot of cooking in school.
Good. Anyone else can just toss them in there. Neighbor. You're probably inspiring others, and they're saying, oh, I've never talked to my flower shop about it either. Great. Oh, the checkout clerk at the grocery store. We got to get to them, Kate. Business associate, sister. Awesome. Thank you. So on that third column, I would like for you to write the word plan, because you all just made a plan of who you're going to talk to about Rotary next. And you proved to me that you can make a plan. So tonight we're going to be thinking, we're going to be stretching, and we're going to be planning. So keep your paper nearby, because we're going to add some stuff in there. So first, let's think a little bit. Think about your Rotary story, and it might be a little bit deeper than the why of your, why did you join, or what made you join. I joined Rotary for the same reason as probably a lot of you. Someone asked me to, and I said, okay, sure. And I showed up, and then I joined. But unpack that a little bit, and just think about, what does Rotary mean for you? And I'm going to share with you a little bit about my path to Rotary and how I got there, but it's just that. It's my story, and yours is probably different. So feel free to think about what I share tonight, chew on it, ponder it, but this is about you tonight. So think about what it means to you and take that as your inspiration when you close down your computer at the end of our time together. So I've become a little familiar to people because of this concept that I call Rotary Happy. And Rotary Happy is just my silly little way of describing a meaningful and impactful member experience. Now, the background of how Rotary Happy came about was actually born out of a conversation that I was having with another Rotarian. I wanted to plan a 30 days of kindness project where we did 30 projects in 30 days. And I was, of course, very excited about it. I don't know if you've noticed, but I have a lot of energy. It's both endearing and annoying. I recognize it. So I was having this conversation with him and talking about working together, our clubs working together on it. And he says to me, well, I'm just not sure how this is going to go, Jenny, because I just don't think I'm as raw Rotary as you. So I think that it was maybe an insult, but I will take it as the compliment. I'm sure it was meant to be. And so to that, I responded, I don't really think I'm raw Rotary, like with a chip on my shoulder. And I just said, I'm just really Rotary happy. And it kind of became this little joke that and now somehow I'm the Rotary happy lady. So when I unpack my story of how I ended up in Rotary and how I came to be the Rotary happy lady, I can actually trace it all the way back to when I was just a baby. You heard when Mel was introducing me that when I was a baby, I entered the child welfare system. I entered the foster care system. And what you may not know about me is that I was actually adopted from foster care when I was young. And I grew up in a foster home. And my parents, who adopted me after a while, have cared for and loved over hundreds of children over the past 40 years. So kind of growing up in this way and sharing my family and my home all the time, I've really seen firsthand, and I even personally kind of understand how someone else's decisions can change the course of your life. So for me, I've kind of found it to be my responsibility or my duty to make good use of the opportunities that I have had and to keep moving forward towards the kind of world where we all leave a positive impact on others in our wake. So I really do just love Rotary because it aligns so much with my own life's mission. And I told you that my life's mission is to leave people in places a little bit better than when I found them. And Rotary is the way that I can carry out that work. Rotary is personal. Each of us has a very personal reason for joining and staying. And so while we say service and fellowship, it means something different to each of us. And that's what I hope you'll think about tonight. So for me, Rotary wasn't always easy, and I didn't always feel Rotary happy. One thing that if you've watched some of the videos or watched me speak before, you'll probably know that I'm a charter member of the Athens Sunrise Rotary Club, but I was actually a member of another club first. And I was a member of a club that had over time become really, really toxic. And there were lots of bullying, there was harassment, there was lots of points keeping. For me as a woman, it didn't always feel safe. And I found myself having crippling anxiety going to meetings, which is not the way that we want anyone to feel about Rotary. So I and others in the club tried to address this behavior, and ultimately we were unsuccessful in doing that. So I made the decision to walk away from that club. And then the really cool thing happened next. About a week later, on the day that we would typically meet, I texted two other women who had also left the club. And I said, we've been having breakfast together for so long, I'm gonna miss you today. So we decided to meet for coffee in this little tiny coffee shop in our town. And we met for coffee. Nothing too productive came out of that first little coffee date. We did a lot of complaining, a lot of supporting each other, a lot of ventilating. And a cool thing happened the next week because we decided to meet for coffee again. We had a couple more people join us. And then a couple more people the next week. And people were starting to hear that we were having this little coffee date. And by the end of the month, we had about 24 people joining us for coffee. And so about a month after that, we said, well, we look like a Rotary Club and we sound like one, we ought to be a Rotary Club. So we chartered our club just a couple months later. We started out with about 26 members on our original charter. And I had the privilege of serving as our club's second president. And the really cool thing that happened is during the year that I was president, I got to welcome a new person into our club every other week of the entire year. So it was really fun to welcome a lot of new people and a lot of energy. But that's actually not even what I'm most proud of, because people ask all the time, how'd you recruit so many members? And we didn't recruit members at all. We just simply were having a good time. We were doing good work and we were talking about it and people wanted to be a part of it. But what I'm most proud of during that year that I got to serve as president in my club, 100% of our membership was engaged in service. So every single member of our club participated in at least one service project. And that's, for me, was the most exciting thing, was that so many people were getting involved and finding their work and finding their groove through Rotary. So I challenge all of you to consider the answer that you gave when I asked why you were a member. And then make a little time, set aside a little bit of time, maybe after tonight, and just unpack that story a little bit more. So many of you said service or fellowship, keep those answers, they're true, but dig a little deeper. Why is service important to you? Why is building friendship important to you? Why do those things matter in your life? Because that's really the key to engagement, is really locking in on what are those motivators. Write those things down. So that's your homework for that think column, is to really start to unpack your Rotary story. So peel the layers off and really ask yourself, why service? Why does service even matter to me? Why does it matter that I'm engaged in the community? So now that we have done some thinking, let's stretch a little bit. So I have to say, I'm not a big fan of Rotarians who do nothing but complain about Rotary without being constructive about it. So I don't know about you, but I'm in several social media, those Facebook groups and stuff. And a lot of times they're very positive and I'm very energized by them. But sometimes there's these little, you get stuck in that social media scroll hole and people are doing a lot of complaining. So while I don't like people that complain about Rotary, I'm going to share something that bugs me a little bit. And I feel comfortable sharing it because it's something that I think we can do something about it. So it doesn't just bug me about Rotary, it actually kind of bugs me about nearly every organization that I've ever spoken to or trained with. But the world has changed, and organizations and agencies or businesses even, but organizations much like Rotary have really struggled to keep up and adapt to that changing world. So if you think about that, change management, it just sounds bad when you're like, oh, change management, it's very scary. And we all kind of resist the word change for some reason. Somewhere inherently, we have been socialized to attach an implied negativity to the concept of change. I don't know why. I have some theories about it, but that's for another meeting. So when we approach Rotary clubs or Rotary members and we start talking about how we need to change, is it fair to say that sometimes it doesn't go over all that well, right? And sometimes we're kind of, well, this got awkward real fast. She's talking about change. So what you say when you're talking about change and what the people on the other end of that hear are two very different things. So instead, I invite you to not talk about change, but instead talk about stretching. And I'm going to lead you through a really quick exercise to practice having these conversations. So let's say that I am talking with my Rotary Club and I have a theory that our dues are a little too high. And I think maybe we're excluding some people with our dues structure. So I go to my club and I say, hey friends, I think we should talk about our dues. I'm a little worried that they're too high and we're alienating people with how expensive our dues are. And then what happens, right? The world explodes when you talk about something like that. That's big, scary stuff. And people just start saying, we start saying, but. So we'll say, yes, but, right? So if I said, I want to lower our dues, people will say, well, yes, Jenny, that's an interesting idea, but here's all the reasons why that won't work. yes, but, because you say yes because you want to be polite, and then you say but, and then you make it your business to tear apart that idea. So instead, we're going to say yes and this is a really great way to start conversations about difficult topics. So we're going to say yes and. So if I were to say I think we should reduce our dues, if we were participating in this collaborative exercise, someone would say, well, yes, and you know what? That would be a great way to perhaps eliminate some barriers for some of our members. Yes, and that might be a way for us to explore other membership. Yes, and we might get more families involved in Rotary if it's more affordable. So do you see the difference? Yes, and yes, but. So I'm going to give you 2 examples. And we're going to practice. So I'm going to give you a prompt and then we'll have 2 or 3 of you, if you can unmute yourself and add the yes and to it, not the yes but. There are no yes buts allowed in the rest of this call. And don't worry, I'm not going to give you anything really scary like dues. So the first one that I would like to give you is I think our club should participate in the local parade. So if someone wants to unmute themselves, just, whoever, you're all grown-ups, unmute yourself and add a yes and to, I think our club should participate in the local parade.
Yes, and we can also have our Rotary Youth Exchange students march along in it.
Perfect. Awesome. Great way to be inclusive in Rotary. Who else has a yes and?
Yes, and it won't cost us anything out of our marketing budget. We can just do it for free.
Absolutely. It'll save us some money.
Yes, and our Rotary Interact kids can participate and they will love it.
Awesome. See, you guys can do this. You're doing it. Yes, and. Because imagine if we had framed this with yes, but. Stop me when you've heard this one before. I think our club should participate in the local parade. Well, yes, but the last time we did that, nobody showed up. Well, yes, but the last time we did that, it rained. Well, yes, but the last time we did, right? We could go on and on with all of the barriers to that. Here's another one. I think we should do a project to address hunger in our region. Who wants to start?
Yes, and we can probably partner with either True North or one of the other local agencies to help out.
Awesome. Building new partnerships through Rotary. I love it. I think we should do a project to address hunger in our region. Yes, and go ahead.
Yes,
can involve. Go ahead.
Yes, and we could track the weight of the donations so that we could publicize how much we collected.
Oh, look at you cross-pollinating with public image. I love it.
Yes, and we can involve our satellite clubs, the Interact clubs, and the local churches to get more new ideas and spread food farther.
Perfect. Great job, everyone. So this technique and this exercise for the purposes of our conversation tonight, it was meant to be a little silly. Obviously, we could keep adding yes ands to it until it gets really silly. But really, it's just a way to help us stretch beyond our comfort zones and foster creativity and collaboration. So think about all of the ideas and motivation and energy that you can cultivate along the way when you approach conversations in this way. And I think particularly if you're a leader in any organization, it's a great way for you to model and build, kind of building on those ideas. Because that's the really cool thing about Rotary is kind of this idea incubator, right? Someone comes and you put a couple Rotarians or Rotaractors in a room together, and then suddenly it's a project and it's making an incredible difference in the world. So what I'd like for you to do in the middle column of your paper is to write down an opportunity for stretching. It could be personal, it could be club level, it could be project level, it could be district level, whatever. For me, one of my stretch goals that I have set for myself repeatedly over the last couple of years, I'm a really slow read, but is that I have to slow down my excitement and my energy sometimes, because in our club, when someone comes up with an idea, it's barely left their mouths and I already have like a color-coded spreadsheet and I'm making a to-do list and I'm off to the races with it. And while that's interesting and sometimes useful, it also leaves a lot of people's perspective and input out. It really leaves a lot of people out. So I have to work really hard to bring myself down to a dull roar so that I can listen to everyone's great ideas and not just go ahead and picture what it could be in my head. So that's me. That's my stretching goal habitually. So write down your stretch goal there in the middle column. And finally, we are going to talk about planning. So I want you to think about that person that you mentioned that you have never talked to about Rotary before. Can you envision yourself talking to them about it? So if you're in the grocery store, can you envision yourself bringing it up with the clerk, or you're, in picking up flowers and you can envision yourself, or when you're at the dentist, maybe that's the problem. When you're at the dentist, you can't talk about it. So before you get in the dentist chair, you will talk to your dentist or the hygienist about Rotary. So just think about it. What would you talk to them about Rotary? What would you say? And here's something I really believe. I don't think that we ask people to join a club. I think that we invite them to experience Rotary with us. And the reason that this is the third part of our conversation and not the first is that I don't think we can really talk to others with any kind of authenticity if we haven't worked out what our organization means to us personally. So if I walk up to John and I say, I'd really like for you to get involved in Rotary. And he says, well, why are you involved in Rotary? And I say, I don't know. That's kind of hard. So, but when you're passionate about something and you believe in it, that's infectious. So any one of us on this call tonight could probably recite Rotary's vision statement. We could probably recite the 4-way test or the object of Rotary. That's awesome. Keep memorizing those things. But have you really thought with any kind of intention or any kind of boldness what it means for you to be a member of Rotary? So hopefully through some of our earlier conversations, you have a little bit or maybe a little bit more than you have before. Please continue to do that work because it's what makes Rotary interesting to others from outside of our organization. We shouldn't be inviting people to join us just so that we can have impressive year-end numbers. I'm sorry, district governors. I just don't think that the goal should just be having a big number, like throwing up some good numbers on the scoreboard. We should be inviting people in because it's how we expand our capacity for good. That's the reason we need to grow Rotary, because we can do more good and we can reach more people in more communities when Rotary is strong. So I want you to I'm going to give you a little example. I'm going to prove to you why I think this Rotary experience and feeling Rotary happy is a key to growth, sustainable growth. So, and you're going to think that I'm not going to make a point here, that it's unrelated, but just bear with me. So earlier this year, I purchased an electric kettle, the kind that sit on your countertops and you just push the button and it heats up the water instantly almost. So I'd never had one before. Before that, I was basically a monster and I just heated water on a pot on my stove for tea. So I bought this kettle in about January or so, and I love it. It has been the answer to every question I never knew I had. And immediately within 1 week of this kettle, it's actually this kettle right here. I have it because I wanted to show you all of it because I like it that much. But within 1 week of having this kettle, I bought a second one for my office because I knew that my coworkers would love it too. And then just a few days after that, my coworker ordered one for her house. And she said, this is amazing. I can't believe I didn't have one of these before. I have purchased 2 of these suckers for gifts as to people. And I don't know how many people I've told about this kettle. I'm like a woman when you say you have a nice dress on and she says, oh, great, it has pockets. I'm like, have you seen my kettle? It's a really great kettle. So I'm not suggesting that Rotary is a kettle. It's not what I'm doing. But let's think for a second. Why am I telling people about my kettle? It's certainly not because the company, I don't even know what company makes it, paying me to do it. I don't get anything in return. There's no gimmick here. This isn't like a pyramid scheme where I'm gonna, get money if I sell more of these kettles. That's not how this works. I have found something that is useful and something that is really practical for me. It fills this need that I have. I found it and I just want to tell other people about it. So did you know that when you watch other people that you care about experiencing joy or happiness, you actually experience a chemical release of helpful neurotransmitters in your brain like dopamine and serotonin. Those are the chemicals in our brain that help us feel pleasure and joy. And it's kind of how we explain the urge that we feel to share a bite of our food with someone. I mean, before coronavirus, you taste something really tasty, dessert, whatever it is, and you'd say, oh my gosh, this is so good, you have to taste it. Or when we watch our child or grandchild take their very first steps, we get so excited about that. I mean, we're not doing it. We're not taking steps for the first time. So commonly we refer to that as pride, right? We call that pride. We're proud of them. We're proud of our friends. And there's even some pride in, I read a book and I really want Randy to read the same book because I want him to experience what I experienced with this book. And if he comes back to me and says, Ginny, you were right, that book was amazing. And I'm going to have some pride about that. I recommended a good book to Randy. So we call that pride, but really those experiences have a biological impact on us. That's that chemical release I talked about. We are invested in the happiness of the people around us. So let's apply what we just talked about human behavior to how we analyze our experiences in Rotary. When you are Rotary happy, or whatever you want to call it, and the members around you are Rotary happy, whatever that might look like for you as individuals, it becomes incredibly obvious and incredibly enticing to those around us. We just can't help but share this experience with others. Now, you saw how much I just talked about a kettle. So could you imagine how much I talk about Rotary, how much I want to share Rotary with the people in my life that I care about? Because Rotary is so important to me. I can accomplish this great work through this organization, and I want other people to experience that too. So your homework in this section, in the third section of your piece of paper, is to make a plan for how you will share Rotary Happy or your Rotary story. But also make a plan to connect to others in your organization and just make sure that they're getting the most out of their experience in Rotary too. We have a responsibility to care for one another, especially during this time. And remember, because several of you said you joined and stayed because of the people. So we need to extend that care and make sure that everyone within our organization, no matter how big or how small, is experiencing that, what I call Rotary Happy, but what might just be a positive member experience or a fulfilling and impactful member experience. So I invite you and challenge you all to work as individuals, but also as collective units to make sure that we all find Rotary Happy and then share that with the world. You deserve to be Rotary Happy. You deserve to be your kindest self, but the world deserves Rotary members who are engaged and excited about the work we're doing. The work that we do and the good that we can do and all that we can accomplish is too important for us to be anything less than engaged. So I hope that you will share it with your fellow members and share it with everyone who hasn't yet found Rotary, or as I like to call them, future members, and have some fun with it. So I hope tonight I'm going to wrap up, and then I want to hear from you and hear your questions and thoughts. But I hope that you will walk away from this just thinking a little bit differently than maybe you have before. But I challenge you all to check in with one another in the coming days and just talk over. How are you thinking? How are you stretching? How are you planning? And talking about those on a regular basis to make sure that we continue to move forward, continue to stretch, and continue that kind of pursuit of that, what I call Rotary Happy. You could call it something else, or raw Rotary. But I hope that you all have a little bit of fun with it. And I certainly appreciate sharing this time with you tonight. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Jenny. That was great. I'm excited to share with the folks that weren't able to make it today, and also to share my Rotary Happy with everyone. But so I'm sure there's questions. So rather than put them in the chat box, if people would want to unmute and just ask it, I think that'd probably be great. So I'm gonna see if anybody wants to ask a question for Jenny. And while they're thinking about it, I'm going to ask one. So, these are different times. and it's challenging. And so getting folks to attend Rotary meetings now is kind of hard. We're a smaller club, so we can still meet in person, but we have some people that are reluctant to join. Have you seen any, can you think of anything that you can share that can help us during this time in your district from membership that would help?
Yeah, I think my club personally is still meeting in Zoom, and in July our numbers were down a little bit. So like the virus numbers were down a little bit. So we met outside a few times, and then the county that our club is in is a really high incident area. So we've went back to Zoom pretty quickly after that. But we did do hybrid meetings when we were able to meet in person. So we had people on Zoom and trying to really get everybody engaged. And so that's what I'm seeing around my district, and kind of we're really trying to just give everybody the tools that they need to have productive hybrid meetings. I would invite you all to check out, if you haven't already, on our district's website, rotary6690.org. And if you go to rotary6690/increasing engagement, we have a ton of toolkits that we developed that address maintaining engagement as we made the shift to virtual meetings, and then increasing engagement now that we've kind of settled in a little bit. And it also has, I think, 6 or 7 ready to go service projects that are social distancing approved and can be kind of adapted to any area. So I think that keeping people engaged in service and talking about service and talking about what the needs are, I think that's always the magic behind engagement. And just reaching out to people. It's really easy to make assumptions about why someone's not attending. It's really easy to just assume that either they're disengaged or they're busy or they don't care, whatever and sometimes it can almost take on a negative turn of, they just don't care about Rotary as much as me. Those types of things where we do that point keeping. So I really advise to lean the other way with those types of tendencies and just reach out to people one-on-one and connect with them. And not from the, why haven't you been at Rotary perspective, but from the, hey, how are you doing? Do you need any support right now? Kind of perspective. But also on that page I mentioned, there is several tip sheets, but one is titled How to Engage the Member Who Disappears Pixel by Pixel. And it's kind of almost a roadmap or flow chart of how to reach out to someone, how to start a conversation with them when you haven't seen them in a while, and kind of figure out what the barrier is.
And I just went to that website, and just so you guys know, it's under the link Our Clubs is where you can find that maintaining engagement section. And it's awesome.
Yeah, there's tons of stuff on there. Tons of guides, really easy to use, like, one-page resources for club presidents, especially.
I'm stealing.
Please do.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I hear it's
Thank you.
It's in Spanish now too. So if you speak Spanish, I think it's available out on the internet somewhere in Spanish.
Cool.
Well, mentorship is real important. It's kept me in Rotary almost 60 years now. But if you want to start a conversation, I normally know who I'm talking with. And if it's a young person with real young children, I talk about our T-ball field. If it's a little older people, we talk about the soccer fields that we've done. And pretty soon they're engaged and they want to become part of the community improvement, even if it's painting fire hydrants. So it's real easy once you know who you're talking with. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's a great piece of advice, and thank you for sharing that. I think when I mentioned when I was the club president, we had this kind of steep growth. But my favorite thing that year was that I had a meeting or like a lunch or, had a beer, had a breakfast, had a coffee, whatever, with every member of the club, every new member, every current member, and just talk to them about why they were interested in Rotary. So if someone said, I've always been interested in getting involved with Habitat for Humanity, I've just never really known how to get involved. And then I said, no problem, let me introduce you to our service chair. And a month later, we built a house. So it's kind of cool when you find out what that passion is, whether it's the soccer fields or whether it's the T-ball field, and then plug them in there and get really, kind of make those, like I call them smart connections, and make a smart connection or a smart introduction for someone. So that's a really great strategy that you just shared. I appreciate you sharing that, Gary.
So we do have a question. Does your club do family-oriented activities?
Yes. So I have 2 young children. My little Rotary babies are 8 and 12. And we're definitely a Rotary family, and we're like a nerdy Rotary family. We're one of those. My youngest son, who's 8, became a Paul Harris Fellow last year. And so he got the certificate and the pin, he was very excited about it. And he had it up on his wall, and he's doing remote virtual school right now. And his teacher said, "What's that up there?" And he said, "Oh, it's a Paul Harris Fellow." And, he said it like he really knew what he was talking about. And she said, well, what is that? He goes, "Well, Paul Harris invented Rotary, and I am his fellow." In his mind, fellow means friend. "I am his fellow because I do Rotary stuff," which I thought was really cute. So we're definitely like a Rotary nerd family. So our club has a lot of people like me in it. So these mid-career professionals who have young, busy families. We're, I think, 21 to 77 or something like that is our age span in my club. So we definitely do a lot of family-oriented things. And there's kind of a difference between saying Rotary's having this event or having this dinner or having this service project. And it's okay if you bring your kids. That's one thing. But it's a completely different thing to say, this is an event or this is a project or this is a dinner where we want you to bring your families. Either that's your young children, maybe it's your teenagers. My oldest, he's always plugged into a wall. It's really easy to find him. He's constantly tethered to a wall because he never goes too far without a phone charger. Or it's some of our members bring their grandchildren, and kind of get involved with things. So we do a lot of those types of activities. Also, our club meetings have a lot of kids in them. So back when we were meeting in person, we were usually passing around someone's baby, we all called dibs on who gets to hold the baby, and playing games. And my youngest son, after he attended his first Rotary meeting, he gave some really great advice to how to make Rotary meetings better. He said, if you really want more kids to come, you ought to think about having some games in there. And I said, well, we have games. I said, we said the 4-way test, that was kind of like a game. And he goes, no, Mom, like Battleship. You should have Battleship, or checkers. So we meet in a coffee shop still. So there's usually a shelf full of board games or things like that. So we always will have some kids sitting in the back playing Battleship or something during our meetings. So I think really making that really open. We, of course, have some events that don't make sense for kids necessarily. If we're pouring beer at some charity event, we usually don't have our kids at that one, but we have a lot of things that are very intentionally meant to bring families and bring extended families. My parents go to stuff with me. They're kind of helicopterish. So they come to a lot of Rotary events with us too.
So Jen, I'm curious about your previous club that you left. Is there any bad feelings, or do you guys collaborate on activities, or how did that all work out?
Yeah, so sadly, that club doesn't exist anymore. So not long after we started our new club, that club's charter actually got pulled. And I don't know the details of kind of how all that happened, because by that point I had stepped away. I will say that near a good percentage of our members were also members of that former club and kind of came over. And some people, especially like women who joined our club, within a year or two of it starting, and I would, they'd kind of hear that there was this, I'd say, oh, you've probably heard there's this other club. And they said, oh, I was a member of that club 10 years ago and I left. So we had people who had stepped away from Rotary a decade before that had then kind of come back in our club. Now we do have another Rotary club, a much older club, like it's been around longer. I don't mean older people, but been around a lot longer than us in our area too. So we meet in the morning. That other club meets at noon. And so we do a lot of collaboration with that big project that Mel mentioned when she was introducing me. That involves all, so before I became a membership chair, I was an assistant governor. And so all 5 of those clubs that I supported as assistant governor are involved in that big project, along with all the Kiwanis and Lions clubs. And so I would basically was like, I'm going to keep bugging you until you like us. So to me, all of our missions are very important and overlap. So it makes a lot of sense to me for Rotary clubs to be collaborating and all service organizations to be collaborating, because we're all stronger when our colleagues in service are strong too. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me to look at those other service organizations and see them as competition. I see them as opportunities to do more good. We just have to be able to have those conversations.
Jenny, great presentation. Really appreciate it. My family comes from a coal mining Appalachia, and the people are so poor they don't have two nickels to rub together. But if there's a tragedy in the town, all of a sudden food shows up on doorsteps and they just do it. I spent 40 years in healthcare with people making over $500,000 a year who couldn't seem to be happy. So I've come to the conclusion as an old man that in every single life, there's good things and bad things that happen. Somehow you figured out how to focus on the positive. What's your secret?
You know, when you were talking about, poverty in Appalachia, my mom used to say, so I didn't grow up in a wealthy family by any means. And my mom would always tell us this thing, when it came time to buy school clothes or, getting, food bank food, that kind of thing. And she'd say, we're really wealthy. We just don't have a lot of money. And, I think that, that's just smart stuff my mom says, but, I think trying to apply that and, certainly because I kind of project the energy and the happiness, it doesn't mean that I don't have times that are difficult or that I don't feel discouraged sometimes. I mean, I work in the world of child abuse and neglect. So, but I just think that, in life, you're either going to be laughing or crying. And I would just rather spend more of my time smiling and, doing good work and kind of moving through things forward. So that's kind of how I approach, I work in a high conflict type setting. So people I don't get involved in people's lives because things are going well, as you can imagine. And so I just really stay focused on what is the mission and what can I do to help. And I spend a lot of time kind of evaluating my priorities and what I spend my energy and time on, because I just want to be a part of moving things forward. And I think that's where I can spend my energy.
You are a good person, Jenny.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any more questions?
Most of the time. I mean, if anybody dug up my MySpace from 2004, you would question it.
Well, we all have those days.
Well, Jenny,
Oops, go ahead.
Jenny, you're an inspiration, and I'd love to have you speak at like our satellite club. I'm from the Pigeon Club. I'm the secretary of the club, and we recently started a satellite club, and we're kind of at a spot where they need a little bit of encouragement because of COVID. We can't meet in person. We're doing it Zoom too, and I just think you'd be a great program for them.
Great.
Well, Shelley, I am recording these, so you'll be able to bring that recording to your club.
Okay, but it's still good that they can bounce off their own questions sometimes too. So, but thank you.
Yeah, my email is pretty easy to remember. It's rotaryhappy13@gmail.com. And I would be very happy. My schedule's a little full. I'm booking out pretty far right now, but if I have time, I would certainly love to hop on a Zoom call with a Rotary Club if I can make time for that.
I think that's one of the things you touched on is the positivity of being in the Rotary situation, because I mean, some people have, a lot of everyone right now has some stressful things going on right now in their life, and they don't want to be in an organization that's not doing good and being positive and on a weekly basis. We want to remind people of that. So I just wanted to share that, and thanks for sharing today.
Yeah, thank you. In my district, of course, I think probably like most districts, worried about membership declines and worried about the impact of COVID and what that's going to mean for membership. And without trying to be too corny about it, I've kind of been saying, I think Rotary is going to be just fine. Like the real Rotary and the real members of Rotary, real Rotarians, I think we're going to kind of figure out a way to keep moving forward. And I think to think any less of Rotary is to not believe in the thing that we've spent over 100 years building. And I think that we've built a pretty darn good Rotary. I've been a part of just a little bit of it in the whole history of Rotary. And I think that things will keep moving forward. And I think that we have to have faith in each other and trusting each other and continuing to kind of keep this momentum moving forward. So while it is a hard time in a lot of parts of our world, it's also an exciting time to lean into innovation and to lean into kind of those stretching type ideas. So I think it's kind of an exciting time to be a member of Rotary right now.
And to add to that, I think, Jenny, we have opportunities with all of us doing Zoom meetings now. You can bring speakers in, just like we could reach out to you. We can either watch the recording or we could reach out to you, which you would not be able to travel to all the different places, you know. So there are some opportunities.
I couldn't do that much travel. Come on.
Yeah. Very good. Excellent. Do we have any more questions? We got a couple minutes left, but I think everybody's putting in the chat box the same thing as this has been fantastic. You gave us our motivation. We are excited. We're going to be Rotary happy. And I think everybody on the call is very happy that they were here. So we
Jenny,
appreciate
I would like to encourage you to continue to deliver your message. It's needed in many countries, not just in the United States. I was visiting with a couple of people this morning with some ethnic minority groups, and I asked them what they thought of the times. We're trying to form a new club right now, and they said these times are great. And they looked at nothing but the positives. They said for the first time, we're being listened to and we're being heard. So keep delivering that message. It's great.
Thank you. Thank you, Russ.
Can I try one? Hello?
Yes.
Okay. My name's Orville Crain. 6290, past membership chair. And I have found, almost stumbled into, because I ask almost everybody to attend a meeting with me to see if they might be interested. So I asked dozens and dozens of people. In fact, I've inducted 21 new members. But my last 3 members were Black men. And I run into these guys. One is a new city manager, one is a teacher, but I run into these men and I'm talking to them and I come right out and say, we are really interested in increasing the diversity of our club. You would really be a big help. And I would love to have you come to a meeting with me and see what you think. And have recruited, the last 3 members I've recruited have been Black men, and they seem to enjoy the request. And I think Rotary in general could do a lot better job, excuse me, at talking to people who don't look like us.
I agree. I was just in our zone summit training, and I partnered with a colleague, and we did a presentation about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we went through these scenarios of, situations where people weren't welcomed into Rotary because of their race, because of their sexual orientation, their gender, their not being able to physically access their Rotary experience. And so we went through those, but at the end, I got asked a question, and basically the question was, Rotary is not political, so why should we be talking about things like racism in Rotary because it's not political? And I really resist that line of thinking in Rotary. I think that we as members of Rotary have made a commitment to peace and conflict resolution. And I think that we have to be willing to have difficult conversations. And just like you said, Orville, have conversations with people who are not like us and listen without defensiveness and work together to build pathways forward. And I think that, we have a responsibility to do that. And I think that I don't think it's political. I think it's an issue of human rights. I think it's an issue of expanding our capacity to do good in the world And it starts with a conversation. It starts with being willing to have those conversations and move those conversations forward. So kudos to you for being willing to do that. I think it's a really special way for us to make the Rotary that we all love even better.
Orville, can I make a comment about that? Thank you so much for doing that and bringing that topic up. In my district, I've got these captain Rotaries, and I got heroes and sheroes.
They're great.
I ordered the heroes and I ordered the sheroes, and when I got done filling out all the bags, I had to reorder the sheroes. And, you know, so we actually have more women than men in our district. So I go back and I think about the time when we would bring in a new member and we would say, and she's a woman. Okay, well, now we don't even say that. And I look forward to that time in the future. We don't have to say, and we're bringing in so-so, and he's black. You know, it's the time when we're just like, is inclusive. I think I froze, or you guys all froze? Okay.
Nope.
Keep going. You did freeze.
You're good, Noel.
Okay, I'm good. All right. So anyway, I just look forward to the time when we just have generalized acceptance and we aren't saying, oh, and you know, you don't have to say, and that person's a polio survivor, or, and, you know, that we're all just Rotarians, and we don't have to work so hard at making us, when we say look like us, I would like us to really look like all of us and look like our community. So it's going to be something to look forward to. And I really want to thank you for working to make that happen.
Absolutely. I say all the time that Rotary does not belong to us as members. I don't think Rotary clubs belong to presidents. I don't think they belong to district governors. I don't even think that Rotary clubs belong to Rotary International. Rotary clubs belong to the communities that they serve. And I think that we have a responsibility to serve and represent our communities well. So I really agree with what you said.
Great. Thank you so much, Jenny. I think we are near the end of time. Kathy, do you?
You mean, do I have something to say? Of course I do.
Okay.
Always.
I'll turn it over to you. Thank you so much, Jenny.
Thank you, Jenny. You were awesome and inspiring and engaging, and it's just another little tip of the iceberg for us in these wonderful Rotary Education Summits that we have every year. So tomorrow is our last night, and it's a night we're going to be making membership memorable with Jason Brown. So I just sent out your email with the invitation for tomorrow. So we'll see you, be there, and we all are square. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny.
Thanks,
Good night. Again.
Jenny.
Thanks, Jenny. Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you.
Later, Junior.
See you tomorrow.
Okay.